So good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's session. I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Subon Taylor, who is here to present Youth Justice Live, transporting professional partnerships into blended learning spaces. And so I'd like to hand over to you, Sue. Welcome and good afternoon.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you to everyone that's come along today. Just to say a little bit about myself, I'm in the School of Social and Political Sciences, and I'm a senior lecturer in criminology with a particular interest in young people and youth justice issues, and it's my teaching around that I'm talking a little bit about today. So the youth justice module that I deliver at the University of Lincoln is informally known as Youth Justice Live, which was a phrase that we coined back in 2014 when we designed the module, and it was designed through a collaborative curriculum design initiative that was funded by the university through their Fund for Educational Development. And it was something that we felt we needed, a youth justice module within the school. It was an area that I was really interested in, but it was, the question was, what should it look like? What do we need to have within it? So rather than me just kind of try and decide what that should look like, we created this collaborative approach. And so we put together a team of academic staff and students at all levels of undergraduate students from within the university on the criminology programme, and then also staff from Lincolnshire Youth Offending Service to kind of give their opinions and expertise around what we needed to teach and how we might be able to. Is there a problem with the screen sharing, Mike? Is that okay?
It's I can see it fine. Katrina's having some problems. Just
Okay.
waiting to see if anybody else. So Maria's is fine. So Katrina, I just suggest you drop out and rejoin.
Sorry about that. So we wanted to know, what would be of value to the Youth Offending Service as well. And so we built this collaborative approach. The aim was to plan a module that provides students with really up-to-date and local knowledge about youth justice policy and practice, because youth justice is delivered very locally, unlike some other aspects of criminal justice. And therefore it needed to be very flexible and respond to the shifts and changes each year as we return to the module, what's happened since last year, how have things changed. And this very much reflects Ryan Tilbury's discussion of the need for flexible pedagogies within higher education. So part of the approach of designing the module that we've managed to build on as we've worked through delivery over the last few years is to develop a community of practice, which Streeting and Wise describe as being a learning process, which is kind of an induction into a community, a journey learners take on their way to becoming active participants and practitioners. And the emphasis is on building relationships, not only between teachers and students, but between students and other students at the same and different levels of study. So the community of practice that we created included the staff teaching on the module, the students that helped to design the module, and also those taking the module, plus former students from previous years as we've gone on and had numerous cohorts, the professionals at Lincolnshire Youth Offending Service, and then we've also tried to expand this to a wider community via Twitter of academics and also professionals working in the area. We had a Twitter account at one point, but we've moved to a hashtag just for ease, so we're using the hashtag Youth Justice Live. And in terms of the way we've delivered it, just to kind of say a bit about how it looked before COVID, we started out with just a 2-hour workshop, and each week the Youth Offending Service practitioners would come in and we would do a very interactive session where they would talk about their work. They would bring quite interactive activities with them, such as, for example, getting students to try and actually complete a risk assessment form for an imaginary young person. They provided us with a case study that we used for the assessment that students had to refer to illustrate their points. So we would discuss that within the session. And obviously it'd be a chance for me to kind of try and pull all of this together with theory and practice. We ended up introducing a 1-hour lecture as well, because students were saying we don't feel we're getting enough guidance around the theory, because frankly, when you've got these professionals in the session, they kind of take over a little bit and they like to talk about their work because they're really passionate about it. So we introduced a 1-hour lecture, and of course this did mean that now we had 3 contact hours for students, which is more than is standard on our other modules on our programmes. But it's been working absolutely fine. So for this year with COVID, things all got a little bit more complicated. How are we going to do this when we can't really have these big 2-hour sessions? We can't have lots of students in the room at the same time. Even when we were in a blended approach before we moved completely online, we're not allowed to have visitors on campus, even when we're in the classroom. So we had to rethink the design of the module completely. So bear with me, this is what happened. So it was really important that we didn't lose any of these different components of the module, and in particular, the experience of having the youth offending service staff coming in and maintaining that partnership, because this is something that we've built for a long period of time. We've got really good buy-in from our local organisation, and we want that to continue. So we used our hour lecture slot to provide a live online opportunity for the youth offending service professionals to come in each week. But we've tried to keep that quite interactive and have sort of activities and questions and make use of the breakout groups and the whiteboards and things like that. The lecture that I did, I've trimmed down to a bite-sized, recorded, asynchronous introduction to the topic that students can watch in their own time. This forms part of what we call their on-SEM activities, so their online independent seminar, where we give them a number of different activities on Blackboard, and this is where they might do things like that risk assessment form. They get time to sit down and look at it themselves and have a go at it. The discussion of the case study was a tricky one. Where are we going to fit this in, and how are we going to really promote those discussions? So this we moved into Talis Elevate, which has been really successful, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then we've retained the seminar, the tutor support in 1-hour seminar blocks. So we've got slightly less time, but because we've moved some of those other things out, thank you, we've been able to do that. And then also we've put in that youth offending service professional experience and practice into Talis Elevate as another way of bringing their practice in. Lots of questions about what was the most appropriate way, the most appropriate platform to do this in. The youth offending service staff are, much more familiar with Teams. That's what they wanted to use, but there were so many advantages of using Collaborate, particularly before Teams got their breakout groups. Being able to get students to write on the slides like a whiteboard, having moderator chat for me to be able to communicate with these professionals as well. But it did mean we had to put some training in place, and I had to run a kind of orientation session for the youth offending service, but they really enjoyed it once they got into it. And Talis Elevate, I said I'd say a little bit about that. So this is a screenshot of our case study in Talis Elevate. And so the students use that to annotate it, to look for examples of all the different themes that we're talking about, how we intervene with young people, how we assess risk, issues around policing, etc. The engagement's been really good, and students have given me good feedback about the benefits of doing it in that way. And what we're looking to do now, we've got some logins for our youth offending staff who have offered to enter that space and have those conversations further with the students in response to the comments that they're posting, which I'm really excited about. So in future then, what to keep? I'm definitely going to keep the bite-sized introduction, the asynchronous mini lectures, because it means we can get rid of that extra hour of contact time and students can dip in and out of this theory and context when they need it. Talis Elevate's been fantastic for the case study. We're definitely keeping that. And I'm hoping that from next year, we can get the youth offending service working in it with us right from week 1, rather than from sort of halfway through the term, as we've come to realise that will be useful. Some of the online activities that we've used as well, such as using Padlets and whiteboards, make for more interesting seminar activities as well, to try and engage students and keep that sort of more entertaining aspect of learning going within the seminar too. And then things to try and develop for the coming year is really about working more closely with our partners so that they can see how we've separated all this out, and making the most of the face-to-face interactions and making sure that their content goes in the right boxes within that plan for the week's learning activities. I think I might just have made it, Michael.
You have indeed. That was such an interesting presentation. I know it's a lot of information to pack into such a short space of time, but I think what's amazing is that you have utilized multiple technologies in your teaching and actually strung them together into a sensible experience for your students, that actually you're using the right technology for the right things, which is really great to see. That does draw us to time on this session. So I would like to say a huge thank you to Sue for presenting. It's been a really fascinating, really interesting presentation to listen to. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I do hope that our attendees did as well. So at that point, we'll draw this session to a close. And wish everybody a fantastic afternoon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.